Hi YouTube, I'm Matt and I'm going to give you my review of the new Masters of the Universe movie which I saw last night. I'm going to break this into two parts. The first will be a non-spoiler review, so I don't give anything away for you guys, and then I'll give you a nice warning before going into the spoiler part of the review. So those of you that don't really know me, have never watched my channel before, I'm a massive Masters of the Universe fan. I've made multiple 80s cartoon crossovers, of which He-Man and the Masters of the Universe play a big part in them. My most recent video was a Masters of the Universe crossover, and in fact just a few days ago I released my director's cut of that episode, which was sort of had an extra 20 minutes or so footage. So basically I've been watching over the last year or so, I've pretty much been watching Masters of the Universe non-stop. Well, I've been looking for clips that I need for the crossovers. I've been listening for audio clips that I need to piece together conversations between the characters. Masters of the Universe has pretty much consumed my life in the last 6 to 12 months. For me, this is the perfect time to watch a Masters of the Universe live action movie. There'll be a link in the description and at the end of the video for all my 80s cartoon crossovers for anybody who wants to check them out. This movie doesn't take itself too seriously, and that is the thing that I love, I think, probably the most about it. It is essentially a live action version of the 80s Filmation cartoon. You know, there've been a lot of He-Man projects since then, series. There was, of course, the late 80s movie as well with Dolph Lundgren, but this is very firmly based on the Filmation series. I think that's pretty fair to say. And I would say that Travis Knight, who produced it, is clearly a massive fan of the Filmation series, and it comes across pretty much in every scene and every shot of this movie. It's just clear that this movie has been made with so much love. Travis Knight did the same exact thing with Bumblebee, the Transformers movie that he did, when the entire first scene pretty much was set on Cybertron, and all the classic G1 Autobots got a live action version as they all battled on Cybertron, and it was an awesome scene. I'd have quite happily just watched an entire movie of that. It was G1 Transformers cartoon brought to life, and this is exactly, in my opinion, what he's done with He-Man. You know, this movie isn't going to win any Oscars. It's just damn good fun, and it is giving the fans of that original series what they want, which I guess was always my complaint of the Dolph Lundgren movie. You know, they tried to make it too serious, and in doing so, it didn't feel like the original series that at that point was the only other He-Man series that had been out there. Don't get me wrong, you know, I've got some fond memories of the 87, I think it was, movie with Dolph Lundgren, but it never really hit like I'd hoped it would, because it wasn't near enough to the source material of the Filmation series. I felt like all the good guys and the bad guys, you know, and I'm talking not about Adam and even Man-at-Arms and Skeletor, I'm talking about Trapjaw and Mechanic and Ramman and Fisto and all those characters. I really feel like they all got their moment as well. You know, a lot of the critics have panned it, but you know what? A critic is critical of everything that they critique because they're a critic. It's in the job title. So I never trust the word of a critic. In fact, the only word I trust when it comes to movies or TV is my own. I watch it and I see what I think myself. I don't believe in avoiding something because other people say it's rubbish. To quote Obi-Wan,
"Who's the more foolish, the fool or the fool who follows him?"
The acting in the film, you know, they all did their part. Like I say, none of it was Oscar-winning stuff. You know, Skeletor, in fact, was one of the standouts for me. He was genuinely funny, very much based around the original series version of him, and they did a great job of capturing that with the maniacal laughter and the inappropriate jokes and some of the phrases he came out with, and he was genuinely very entertaining to watch. The guy who played Adam, he was good as well. He did the job. He pulled off the sort of geeky, shy, scaredy cat Adam. He pulled that off quite nicely, and he also made He-Man what He-Man should be and what he was in the series, of the guy who doesn't want to fight first, the guy who wants fighting to be a last resort. And and that was nice as well, that he sort of added that part of He-Man as well. Idris Elba was great as Man-at-Arms. He was probably the best actor in it, in all reality. He did a great job of portraying the character's sort of journey through the movie. Eternia itself, I really enjoyed it. I liked it. It was close to the original cartoon, and Grayskull looked great as well, which I was pleased about. And the Sorcerers, I liked the Sorcerers too. But yeah, I really enjoyed this movie. Right, I'm going to launch into my spoiler review.
Emergency!
The first thing that sprung to mind was the scene in the gym, where Adam sort of just started at the gym, and he asked Dolph Lundgren, of all people, if he had any advice for the new guy. Brilliantly worded, and it was a nice scene as well, and a great way to link the two movies and the two actors. And I love the way that Dolph finished it with Good Journey.
Good journey!
As I said earlier, Skeletor was great in this, and he was so close to the original. He did a great job. He was so camp and so funny, inappropriate, and he even said boob at one point as well, which was amazing.
You boob!
And I think one of the genius parts of the writing here, okay, we're not talking Oscar level genius, but something that I found really clever was that however camp and self-aware this movie is, it still kind of would look silly if these characters on Eternia, like Trapjaw and Beastman, and more specifically on the good side like Fisto and Ramman, walked around referring to themselves with these silly cartoon names. This movie came up with a great way of dealing with that. They had Adam on Earth, reflecting on his time on Eternia, wondering how to get back there, but at the same time making notes and drawings of all the people he remembered there. And of course, because at that point he was a child, he gave them all names. He named Ramman and Fisto because of the giant fist. When he got back to Eternia, he called them by his childhood names that he'd given them. So yeah, that, to me, it was a great way to get those cheesy names in there without actually having the characters look stupid with silly names, but we still got to have the names there. So yeah, for me, that was clever writing. I liked it. And of course, on the subject of Ramman and Fisto, there was plenty of double entendres, fisting jokes, and jokes about giving head.
I can never give you a hand. Just let me know.
R.I.P. Mossman, by the way. That was kind of sad when he got melted. I did do a scene in my He-Man Director's Cut crossover episode with Mossman. So I had been watching a fair bit of the episodes with Mossman in, so that hit particularly hard for me. Also Mechaneck, he was great in this. I loved the sort of graphics of him and his extendable neck. That was great. Little details like Man-at-Arms' weapon, that like mace that he was using. I remember that being on the action figure back in the 80s. The music in this I thought was okay for the most part, but there were those moments, especially towards the end, where the original cartoon score started to creep in, and I think I enjoyed those bits the most. Speaking of which, I'm going to jump onto the second of the end credits sequences, and again, this is, I need to warn you, a spoiler part of a review because I am going to go into full detail here. Speaking of the music, in that second part of the end credits, we had She-Ra, and I love that scene, especially the She-Ra music sort of swelling in the background as the scene started. You know, in my 80s cartoon crossover of He-Man, the director's cut I did recently, I had a lot more She-Ra in there, essentially because in my original version I released last year, He-Man gets buried under a load of rocks relatively early in the cartoon, so that all the other heroes that come through the time portals can have their time to shine. Well, that meant that I had large sections without He-Man in, so I wanted to sort of fill the blanks a bit, and I made a few extra scenes with She-Ra taking the lead. I also used the She-Ra music, so again I've watched a fair amount of She-Ra episodes as well in preparation for that director's cut, so it hit particularly nicely for me when I heard that She-Ra music building in the background, and I quickly realised what was going on, and it started cutting to She-Ra. I love that. That's brilliant. To go backwards to the first of the end credit sequence in true Filmation He-Man cartoon fashion, The life lesson, the PSA at the end, was from Orko. I always loved Orko in the cartoon, and that little scene at the end with him doing the life lesson was brilliant. And fair play, he did a great Orko voice, whoever did it. It was pretty darn good. I'm looking forward to seeing that bit again. That's one of the moments that kind of came and went so fast that I need to watch that again. Cringer was good in this. I wasn't 100% sure on the CGI for Cringer. I wasn't also 100% sure on the voice. This may sound silly, but it wasn't Cringer enough for me, or it wasn't cringy enough. I would have liked that final transformation scene after Adam had changed back when he was captured. I would like that final transformation scene for him to have turned to Cringer and changed him as well. And I was kind of expecting that, and then it didn't come, which was a shame. Or at least in the very end scene when he goes to ride off into battle, which was amusing because there was that part of it where Mechanic and the other characters were saying about, does Adam think we've all forgotten that he's He-Man? That was a nice way to do that, because I was wondering what was going on and why everybody seemed to know. And then, of course, Adam sort of sneaks off with Cringer. That was funny. But again, I was hoping that we might see the full transformation there, including Cringer turning into Battle Cat. But we did get Battle Cat, so at least that was good. And if there is a follow-up to this, I'm pretty sure we'll get a lot more of that. I have to commend this movie on its fights, because if there's another thing that they got so close to the original, it was the fight scenes. Some brilliant fight scenes, it really was, especially even at the start, in the sort of the Eternia battle at the start with like Man-at-Arms and Trapjaw, who incidentally, Trapjaw was brilliant in this. He was probably my favourite villain, I think, next to Skeletor. Beastman was good as well, in fairness. But yeah, that scene was great. The fighting was great in that. But I'm thinking more of when He-Man is in Snake Mountain and he changes and starts sort of beating up all Skeletor's henchmen. That was brilliant stuff. The punching, the swinging guys around by the legs and swinging them off. That was so He-Man Filmation cartoon. It was brilliant. Little things in there, little Easter eggs, like even the ship that I think Skeletor flies in it at some point, and I think it was Trapjaw as well when he goes to confront Man-at-Arms at the end. That little ship was pretty much identical to Skeletor's ship that he would fly around in the series as well. I was shocked that the king died, but I guess they needed that emotional weight for the movie, and it made story sense. So I'm willing to forgive that one. So yeah, that's it pretty much. I've made it blatantly obvious that I love this movie. I had a ton of fun watching it, and I can't wait to watch it again and to take in the little bits that I'd probably missed as I was going along. I hope that you watch it, and I hope you enjoy it. And maybe tell me in the comments, what was your He-Man? Was it the original Filmation series? Was it the 87 movie with Dolph Lundgren? Or was it a different series, one of the later series, or the more recent series of He-Man? I'd be interested to know. And what did you think of the movie? Who was your favourite characters? Did you like the tone of it? Did you think it should be more serious? I've read a few comments on YouTube where people have been saying they thought it should have been more like Lord of the Rings style. But I think, in my opinion, if it had gone down that road, it probably would have been more like the 87 movie, where it becomes too serious, that it becomes too far away from the original series. And then I think you lose that fun vibe that it certainly had. There's a link in the description, and I'll put a link at the end of the video for all my 80s cartoon crossovers for anybody who's interested in watching them. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like it, drop a comment below. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so, and I'll see you next time.
It sounds like we better go keep an eye on things.
all right. We're all still alive.